Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Dusty Slay specials out on Netflix this week. Did you watch it yet? I haven't seen it yet. I think my plan is going to be Friday night just to get in a comedy head and watch Dusty, and Maron's out on HBO tomorrow. I want to watch Eddie Pepitone after seeing a friend of the show, Jason Zinman from the New York Times, saying how good that one was. Veer Dawes I have to catch up on, so Friday night might just be comedy night at my house. But Dusty Slay spoke about his origin story. He said, around 2003, I moved with a friend. Then we had some problems, so I moved out and got my own place, and I didn't have any friends, so I took an improv class, and that's how I got into stand-up. I took improv, and I did improv for a long time. He didn't think about doing stand-up professionally until 2011. I won a stand-up comedy competition. I thought maybe I could do something with this, so I started to take things a little more serious than in early 2012. I quit drinking, and things became very clear to me, and I got very good at comedy. Well, I got good at comedy much faster. I wouldn't say I got very good right away, but I got much faster. Quitting drinking changed my whole life in a positive way. I never think of myself as an alcoholic, but I was most certainly a binge drinker that once I started drinking, it usually ended in some sort of disaster. Not a tragedy, but I would black out and lose my friends and things like that. So much of my jokes were all about drinking. I'd label myself an alcoholic, and I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny to drink too much and make bad decisions, but I was really living that lifestyle. So while I was making jokes about it, I was also falling apart a lot of ways while still having fun. It just changed my life, and once I quit drinking, I no longer could make drinking jokes. NFL quarterback Matthew Stafford's wife, Kelly Stafford, went on Instagram on Monday and defended Shane Gillis. Kelly Stafford shared a few clips from her night at the ESPYs, hosted by Shane Gillis. She captioned it, "Every few years we decide to dress up. Glad we did, because Shane Gillis made me almost pee myself multiple times. Turns out, laughing is fun. More people should try it. Signed, Fat Ugly Dog Wife." I don't know if you've seen any pictures of Mrs. Stafford. I would not use the words fat, ugly, or dog wife to describe her. I think she's being a little hard on herself. We're going to be talking about Pete Davidson a lot because he's promoting not one but two movies. He's in The Pickup with Eddie Murphy, and he's in The Home, which is a horror film, apparently. Pete Davidson was on Hot Ones. Host Sean Evans asked Pete which of his tattoos were the most painful to take on and off. Pete had 200 tattoos and said before even removing them, he had already covered up one of his most embarrassing with an image from Jaws. That embarrassing tattoo, listen to this. Pete said, "I've never admitted this because it's so humiliating. When I was like 20 at a comedy club, it might have been the Knitting Factory when Hannibal Buress used to run it, and I did like a set. I was like 19 or 20, and Dave Chappelle was in the corner. And this was before he was back, so seeing him was crazy, like, what the F? I got off the stage, and he was like, I watched your whole set. It was really good. And I was like, how do you keep coming up with new stuff? I'm working on new stuff. It's like difficult. And he goes, jokes come and go, but swag is forever. Pete said, guess who got that tattooed on his chest? At the 92nd Street Y in New York City, interesting lineup tonight. They are screening Marc Maron's new HBO special, which is out tomorrow. And then there's a conversation between Marc Maron and Jim Gaffigan. That's a killer show, 7 o'clock at the 92nd Street Y. There was a delay in Nate Bargatze's show over the weekend. 12,000 people waited almost an hour to see Nate as over 2.5 inches of rain fell in St. Paul. What did they do to kill time? They started doing the wave and the skull clap. The power briefly went out at the XL Energy Center. The generators kicked in. The house lights came on in the middle of a set by Aaron Weber, who was the 5th and final opener. That's a lot of openers, Nate. What are we doing? The crowd then did the wave and the skull for 50 minutes. Eddie Murphy announced he's going to take on the role of Inspector Clouseau in a new Pink Panther movie. Now, I would think I would hate that, but then I thought about it and I go, you know what? That's not bad because it's right in Eddie Murphy's skill set. I hated the idea of Steve Martin playing Inspector Clouseau, but I think Eddie is right for it. He shared this news with Al Roker, who reacted surprised. Roker was curious if the character would remain French. Eddie said, well, he has to be French, but he also could be Haitian. I'll tell you what, he's black. He's black for sure. I think he'd be good at it, doing a half-ass French voice, doing the physical comedy. I think Eddie would be great in that role. Peter Sellers originated the role of Inspector James Clouseau. Is that right? I thought it was Jacques Clouseau. Yeah, it's Jacques Clouseau. Where are you getting James from, Deadline? I love those films. The Pink Panther from 1963, A Shot in the Dark from 1964. Then there's the weird movie from 1968 entitled Inspector Clouseau. The role is played by Alan Arkin. Peter Sellers had declined to return, But he did return in 1975 for The Return of the Pink Panther, which is probably the best one. The Pink Panther strikes again in 1976. This is when they're really rolling here. Then they made another movie, Revenge of the Pink Panther, in 1978. They were working on a movie that would have been titled Romance of the Pink Panther, but Peter Sellers passed away. So did they stop making Pink Panther movies? Of course not. In 1982, remember The Trail of the Pink Panther? That one used outtakes from Peter Sellers as Clouseau in a new story that investigates the disappearance of Inspector Clouseau. Now, if you've never seen this, the first half kind of, sort of feels like a Pink Panther movie, and if I didn't tell you it was outtakes, you would just probably accept it. Once you know it's outtakes, you can't unsee it, as Clouseau's age kind of bounces up and down a little bit. But if you didn't know, you might get away with it. But then halfway through the movie, Clouseau disappears, and then the rest of the movie is trying to find him. So should we stop making Pink Panther movies? No. Let's make another one. Just a year later, in 1983, Curse of the Pink Panther, which reveals that, of course, Inspector Clouseau underwent plastic surgery to change his appearance. The character makes a brief cameo. Spoilers, you had 40 years. Roger Moore plays Inspector Clouseau, billed as Turk Thrust II. This movie is about an American trying to track down Inspector Clouseau. Then they let it go for 10 years, and they made Son of the Pink Panther, in which it's revealed that Clouseau had illegitimate children, and we follow Roberto Benigni as Jacques Clouseau Jr. That didn't work. Then for some reason in 2006, someone said, you know who would be good? Steve Martin. And as Wikipedia points out, Steve Martin's Clouseau is considerably older than Peter Sellers. And yet, even that got a sequel, 2009, The Pink Panther 2, and now Eddie Murphy will star as Inspector Clouseau. Eddie's in his 60s, so I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. I'm being a little hard on Steve Martin, but I just don't think he's right for that role, and I think Eddie will do a good job. Now that the mainstream media is listening to me about Adam Sandler comedies, maybe everyone will admit to one of the great hoaxes of our time, which is, of course, Bob's Burgers. Longtime listeners to this program know what the hoax is. If you are new, let me just ask you two questions really quickly, and then I'll elaborate in a minute. But the two questions I want you to ponder are, have you ever seen Bob's Burgers? And of course, the answer is no. But even more curiously, because I've never seen Downton Abbey, but it clearly exists. The second question I would have for you is, have you ever met anyone at all, who has seen Bob's Burgers? And the answer, strangely, is no. I've met people that have watched Love Island, even though I've never seen it. I've met people who have seen Downton Abbey, but I've never met a single person who has watched Bob's Burgers. Well, Fox has announced Bob's Burgers will return on Sunday, September 28th, alongside the season 37 premiere of The Simpsons. And then, see, here's the hoax, okay? September 28th, a Sunday night. You know what else is on that night? Packers-Cowboys. You know what kind of number a Cowboys game does? Yeah. So everyone's going to turn over. So Fox knows what they're doing. They do air The Simpsons. The Simpsons clearly exists. But then the lineup is supposedly Universal Basic Guys. Nobody has ever watched that. And Krapopolis. Nobody has ever watched that. And then after two things that maybe even if those exist, clearly people are going to tune out. And then season 16 of Bob's Burgers? Yeah, right. I know Kevin Burkhardt will be like, hey, stay tuned tonight after the Chiefs game. And that's what the 4:30 game is on Fox that day. After the Chiefs coming up. It's the season premiere of The Simpsons. Then stick around for an all-new Universal Basic Guys, Krapopolis, and the 16th season premiere of Bob's Burgers. There's no way anybody's still sticking around for that around 9:20 p.m. We're all watching Packers-Cowboys. Come on, Fox. Variety is in on the hoax. They say Bob's Burgers is hitting its 300th episode. Really? 300? There's 300 episodes of these things? No one has ever seen it? You've never met anyone who's ever seen it? For the landmark 300th episode, Bob's Burgers will flash back to the very beginning of the Belcher's restaurant. Executive producer and master hoaxer Lauren Bouchard said at Comic-Con, in the present day, Bob is really sweating whether or not to raise prices, and it's killing him. It sends us on this kind of series of flashbacks to what was going on when Bob and Linda started the restaurant. We're also told there's going to be a Halloween episode, in which Teddy takes a job in the store next door, and a Christmas episode that takes place at a Christmas village. All right. Now, on September 23rd, the hoax gets even more elaborate. They're putting out a book, The Art of Bob's Burgers. Now, I've discussed on this program in the past. The artwork clearly exists. There's clearly Bob's Burgers merch. There are clearly drawings. I've obviously seen them. They're in all these articles. But as for the show, have you ever seen it? No. Have you ever met anyone? No. There will be a book, The Art of Bob's Burgers, September 23rd. Hoaxmaster Bouchard said, "This is a very important book to us. We love the artist's work on the show. We love the drawings that have gone on and the millions of miles of pencil lead on paper, and we wanted to celebrate. There's also going to be more Bob's Burgers merch, which is what I suspect the hoax is all about. It's a fake show. We'll sell some merch. We'll put out a book. We don't have to actually make the show. I get it." Totally switching gears, and let me get the lilt out of my voice, as this is a more serious story. At the Edinburgh Fringe, some Jewish comedians' shows have been canceled, quote, over staff safety concerns. The Independent reports 2 Jewish comedians have claimed their shows have been canceled at the Fringe. Rachel Krieger was set to perform her show Ultimate Jewish Mother. Philip Simon was due to host Jew-O-Rama. Both acts have claimed that they were told their gigs would be canceled because bar staff at the venue expressed fears of being, quote, unsafe. Organizers of the Fringe said they were working to find alternative venues. But politicians and comedians have raised concerns about the move at a time when anti-Semitism is on the rise in the UK. Krieger told Times Radio, "This would have been the 3rd year in a row of that specific show at that venue. When it comes to safety, they said they felt the extra safety precautions that many Jewish performers are subject to at the moment due to rising anti-Semitism made them feel, ironically, more unsafe." I'll be talking a lot about the Fringe all through August. 2 stories about British comedian Karis Nilms. I'll start with the better story from Voice Mag, and they did a lot of previews of the Fringe. They asked Karis about her show. She said it's called Queer Takes for Autistic Folk, a very silly, semi-improvised, super interactive, choose-your-own storytelling adventure. She was asked about the cost of performing and staying at Fringe. That is a topic. There's going to be a trillion articles about that over the next month. Karis said, "I'm very lucky to stay with friends who live in Edinburgh so they can carry on their lives during the Fringe. It's nice to watch TV with them and catch up a little bit and pretend like the Fringe isn't happening. When I'm not performing, I'm a math teacher, and my students will be getting their A-level results in the middle, so I'm going to dash back to London to be there for it and then come straight back up. We'll see," as you're about to hear. That's a little tease. "What advice would you have for an artist considering going to the Fringe?" Karis said, "Watch a lot, as much as you can. Watch people you've never heard of, not just your friends, and watch it in a way that celebrates the people you're watching. There's enough space for everyone to get excited about each other's work. That is great advice." But Karis is also in the news as she could be facing up to 3 years in Turkish prison. That sounds like a joke from the Naked Gun reboot, but it is not. Apparently, Karis left a Zara store without paying for her items. She went back as soon as she realized her mistake. She was shopping in Istanbul on July 22nd. She accidentally left the store without paying for her purchases. She went back in, offered to pay. She was detained, locked in a room for several hours, arrested for shoplifting, transferred to a police station. As the story goes, quote, pressured to sign Turkish documents she didn't understand. She was held for 24 hours. A judge released her but told her she couldn't leave Turkey. Apparently, she's trying to figure out how to afford a place to stay and how to get back to the UK. On social media, she wrote, "I'm lucky I have good friends in Turkey who are currently looking after me and trying to translate the paperwork. I have no money, no earnings coming in from home, and I'm running out of important medication. I'll lose my home, which I share with my son, and livelihood. I'm not looking for sympathy. I made a mistake, which I tried to immediately rectify. I'm embarrassed for my friends, my family, and I've made my mom unwell. I'll never forgive myself for what I've done." And that's your comedy news for today. If you would like the program without commercial interruption, there's a link in the show notes. It'll take you to calaroga.com/plus. Once you get there, for $5 a month, you get this show and like 25 others on the network, all ad-free. Those include 5 good news stories, which not only do I host, I have to record a bunch of those in this recording session down here in the basement studio. And also debuting on Sunday, Paranormal Aliens. If you like X-Files-y kind of stuff, you're going to love Paranormal Aliens wherever you get your podcast. See you tomorrow.